I still remember that night. The cold of the floor. The sour smell of damp wood. The sharp scratching of tiny claws moving across the shadows. My daughter-in-law said she didn't want this useless old woman in her house anymore. I whisper to you now, my sweet child, as you sit on the floor with your chin resting on your small palms. Your eyes are wide, innocent, unblinking. She told my son that I was nothing but a burden. And he said nothing. He just lowered his head. It was evening. The sun had already sunk behind the hills, leaving a faint orange line that bled through the window. I had just finished folding the last of the laundry, his shirts, her dresses. My hands were cracked and tired, but I still smoothed every wrinkle. Old habits are hard to break. I wanted him, my son, to look neat when he left for work the next morning. Then she came to me. Her lips curved into something that might have looked like a smile to someone else, but I knew better. It wasn't kindness. It was something sharp. Go inside, she said. Her voice was honey hiding poison. She pointed toward the small storage room at the back of the house. At first, I thought maybe she wanted me to fetch something, an old pot, a broom, a box. But when I stepped inside, I realized it was no request. The air was heavy with dust and mold. Broken chairs leaned against the walls. Cobwebs hung low like grey lace. I turned, and that's when I heard it. The door shutting. The click of the lock. I stood frozen, staring at the wood in front of me, my hands shaking against the rough grain. Hello. I called softly. It's dark in here. No answer. Only silence. Silence and the sound of her footsteps moving away. I pressed my palm against the door, then my forehead. My throat tightened. I thought it was only for a moment, perhaps she was angry, perhaps she wanted to cool her temper. But as the minutes stretched, I knew. She had locked me in. The room was small, barely large enough for me to stretch out on the floor. The damp walls pressed in from every side. The air was thick, sour with mold and rust. My slippers were thin, and the cold seeped up from the concrete floor straight into my bones. Somewhere in the corner, a mouse scurried, its tiny nails clicking on the wood. When it brushed against my foot, I pulled my knees to my chest, biting my lips so hard I tasted blood. But I did not scream. No, I would not give her the joy of hearing my fear. You clutch my hand now, little one, and I feel your warmth, as if it could reach back through time and heal me. I want you to understand this. Love is not always where we expect it to be. Sometimes the people we give our entire hearts to are the first ones to turn away. I raised that boy, my son, with hands that scrubbed floors until the skin split and bled. I walked miles under the burning sun to wash other people's clothes, so he could wear shoes to school. I went hungry so he would never sleep with an empty stomach. I sewed his shirts under dim candlelight until my eyes blurred. I stayed awake through storms, holding his fevered body against mine, whispering prayers into his damp hair. But when he became a man, when he had a wife who whispered into his ear, all those years seemed to vanish like smoke. As I sat in that locked room, shivering in the dark, I thought of his first steps. I thought of his hand gripping my finger. His first word, Mama. The way he smiled when I braided his hair before school. Those memories came rushing back, stabbing me with a sweetness too painful to bear. The hours crawled. The silence was heavy, broken only by the drip of water from a pipe, the squeak of rats in the corners, and my own shallow breathing. My back ached from the hard floor, but I did not dare stretch out. My stomach growled, but hunger was nothing compared to the wound inside my chest. And outside? Laughter. I heard them, her bright laugh, his deeper voice joining hers. Plates clinking. Glasses tapping. They were eating dinner, feasting, while I sat locked away in a room fit only for broken chairs and mice. My son. The child I had protected from hunger, now letting me starve. I pressed my hand against my chest, as though I could hold my breaking heart together. Why? I whispered into the darkness. Why, after all I gave? Why am I nothing now? But no one answered. You, my darling, are biting your lip now, trying not to cry. But listen closely. Life does not always give us back what we give. Sometimes it tests us. Sometimes it bends us so far we think we will break. But we do not break. Not if we choose to rise again. That night felt endless. I do not know how long I sat there. The darkness pressed down, thick as a blanket, until my eyes burned with exhaustion. My ears caught every sound, the dripping water, the whisper of the wind sneaking through the cracks, the skitter of claws near my slippers. And just when I thought I would never see the light again, a knock came at the front door. Firm. Loud. Unexpected. I froze. My heart thumped against my ribs. I heard her hurried footsteps rushing across the floor. Her voice sharp and uneasy, "Who is it?" And then, silence. In that silence, a strange hope flickered inside me. Because sometimes, my child, life changes in a single moment. And that knock was the beginning of everything. The sound of that knock still echoes in my memory. Firm. Demanding. Like fate itself was standing outside, asking to be let in. I sat frozen in the storage room, pressing my ear against the door, listening. My daughter-in-law's slippers slapped against the wooden floor, as she rushed to the front. "Who is it?" she called, her voice thinner than usual, trembling at the edges. No answer. Just another knock, louder this time. She hesitated. I could hear it in the way her breath caught. Finally, the hinges creaked as she opened the door. A man's voice filled the air. Steady. Deep. "Good evening. We've had complaints in this neighborhood." I straightened in the darkness. A stranger. Who was he? My daughter-in-law's tone shifted instantly, honey sweet, falsely polite. Oh? Complaints? Surely not about us. My husband and I are quiet people. We mind our own business. But the man didn't sound convinced. Several neighbors reported cries. A woman's voice. Someone in distress. His words struck like thunder. I covered my mouth, remembering the moment I had whispered into the darkness earlier. Had someone heard me? Or was it the sound of my prayer that escaped through the cracks? "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, too quickly. I could hear the smugness in her tone, the way she stood with her hand on her hip, pretending to be offended. "You must be mistaken. There's no one here but us." The silence that followed was heavy. My heart pounded. Then, the man spoke again, firmer this time. I need to see for myself. Please step aside." She laughed, sharp and hollow. "Excuse me. This is my home. You can't just walk in." Her words cut off. A second voice joined him, softer, kinder. A woman's. "Please. If there is an elderly person here, we need to make sure they are safe." I held my breath. My nails dug into my palms. Who were these people? Officials? Neighbors? Angels sent by God? Their footsteps entered the house. Slow. Careful. Searching. My daughter-in-law trailed behind, protesting, her words spilling fast like water from a broken pot. And then, silence. The steps stopped near my door. I could see a thin line of light through the crack in the wood. A shadow moved across it. My heart thumped so hard I thought it would burst. A voice spoke, close to me now. "Is someone inside?" I pressed my lips to the wood. "Yes," I whispered, my voice cracking. Yes, please. There was a pause. Then the rattle of keys. Then, the sound I had prayed for. The lock clicking open. The door swung wide, and light poured in like a flood. I blinked, raising my trembling hand to shield my eyes. Two faces looked down at me. A tall man in a dark jacket, his brow furrowed with concern. Beside him, a woman with kind eyes that glistened in the lamplight. "Oh my God," she breathed. "She's been locked in here." I struggled to stand, but my knees buckled. The man reached down, his hands strong yet gentle, and lifted me as though I were no heavier than a child. Behind them, my daughter-in-law stood stiff, her face pale, her smile frozen. "This is a misunderstanding," she said quickly, her voice high and sharp. She likes sitting in there sometimes. It's where she keeps her things." "Enough," the man cut her off, his voice like iron. "You left her in the dark. Without food. Without heat. This is neglect." Her eyes darted to the floor. She wrung her hands, but she said nothing. As he carried me into the main room, I glanced around. The table was set with plates still shining with grease. Half-eaten food. A warm loaf of bread. My stomach twisted at the sight. They had feasted while I had sat in filth. The kind-eyed woman wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. She touched my cheek gently, as if afraid I would shatter. "Don't worry," she whispered. "You're safe now." For the first time in hours, my body relaxed. My shoulders sagged. Tears welled up, hot and stinging. I had held them back all night, but now they flowed freely. I thought of my son then. Where was he? Why hadn't he stopped this? My heart longed for him, even as it broke. I had carried him inside me, given him life. And yet, when I needed him most, he turned away. "Where is your son?" the woman asked softly, as if reading my thoughts. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Only silence. From the corner, my daughter-in-law's voice cut through. "He's working late. He knows nothing of this." Her lie was smooth, rehearsed. But the way her hands trembled gave her away. The man narrowed his eyes at her, but said nothing. He only adjusted the blanket around me, and led me gently to the couch. The warmth of the fire nearby touched my skin, and I realized how cold I had been. I closed my eyes, leaning back. For a moment, it felt like heaven. But heaven is never that close when you are still living in hell. Because I knew, when my son returned, the real test would begin. Would he defend me? Or would he choose her? I did not yet know the answer. But as I sat there, wrapped in a stranger's kindness, I promised myself one thing. I would not be silent again. The night my son came home is carved into my memory like a scar. I was still wrapped in the blanket given to me by the kind woman, sitting on the edge of the couch, my hands trembling in my lap. The man who had freed me sat across the room, his eyes sharp and watchful. My daughter-in-law paced like a caged animal, her smile stretched thin, her hands wringing together again and again. Then, the sound of the door. A key twisting in the lock. Heavy boots on the step. My son walked in. His jacket hung from his shoulders, his face tired from the long day. He stopped when he saw the strangers in his home. His eyes moved to me, sitting weak and hunched. "Mom?" His voice cracked just slightly, like the boy I once knew. I wanted to run to him, to hold him, to bury my face in his chest and forgive him everything. But my body was too weak, and my heart too raw. I only stared. The man rose. "Sir, your mother was locked in your storage room. We received reports from neighbors and came to check. She was freezing, hungry, and left alone." My son's eyes widened. He turned to his wife. "Is this true?" She laughed, too loud, too quick. "Oh, please. They've misunderstood. She likes sitting in there. It's where she keeps her old things. I didn't lock her in. Enough? The man's voice thundered through the small house. We heard her. We found her. Do not lie again. The room went silent. My son's face twisted, confusion, anger, shame, all mixed into one. He looked at me again, and in his eyes I saw a flicker of the boy I had raised, the boy who once clung to my hand. Mom, he whispered. Did she lock you in? I opened my mouth. My lips trembled. For a moment, I thought of staying silent. To protect him. To keep peace in his marriage. That is what mothers do, we sacrifice, even our truth. But then I remembered the cold of that floor. The scratching of rats. The emptiness of my stomach. The loneliness of being abandoned. Yes, I said. My voice cracked, but it was strong enough. Yes, she did. And you let her treat me like I was nothing. The words hung in the air like smoke. Heavy. Unforgiving. My son's face went pale. His wife gasped, her mouth opening but no sound coming out. The silence that followed was sharper than any blade. The kind woman stepped closer, placing her hand gently on my shoulder. She deserves better, she said softly. No mother should be left to suffer after all she has given. Tears burned my eyes, but I blinked them back. I gave everything, I whispered, looking at my son. I gave my strength, my youth, my years. I scrubbed floors, washed clothes, walked miles in the heat and the rain, all for you. I skipped meals so you could eat. I tore my hands apart so yours would be soft. And when the time came that I needed you most, you turned your face away. My son dropped to his knees in front of me. His shoulders shook, and his head bowed low. I'm sorry, Mama. I was weak. I should have protected you. I let her words blind me. Forgive me. I touched his hair, the way I used to when he was a child. My fingers trembled, but my heart, though shattered, still beat for him. I forgive, I whispered. But I will never forget. Behind him, my daughter-in-law hissed, she's lying. She's turning you against me. The man silenced her with a single look. Enough? We will file our report. If this happens again, you will face the law. Her face drained of color. She turned away, folding her arms tightly across her chest. That night changed everything. My son tried to make amends. He begged me to stay, to let him care for me. But something in me had shifted. Love had been my chain for so long, holding me in a house where I was unwanted. That chain had broken. So, with the help of the kind strangers, I found a small place of my own. A humble home, much like this one where you sit now, little one. 4 walls, a roof that leaks when it rains, a floor that creaks when you walk across it. But it is mine. Mine, and filled with peace. My son visits sometimes. He brings food, money, apologies. His eyes are heavy with regret. I love him still, I cannot stop being a mother. But I have learned not to place my whole life in someone else's hands. Not even his. And as for her, his wife, I no longer see her. She stays away, her pride too high to face me again. That is her burden to carry. Not mine. Now, when I sit by the window and the sun falls across the table, I feel no bitterness. Only gratitude that I survived. That I endured. That I lived long enough to tell you, my precious grandchild, this story. You squeeze my hand, your eyes wet with tears. Grandma, you whisper, I'll never leave you. I promise. I smile, my heart warming in a way it hasn't in years. That's all I ask, I say softly. Remember my story. Remember my pain. But more than that, remember my strength. Because life will test you too. It will try to break you. But you must not break. You must rise, even from the darkest room. I look at you then, really look at you, and I see not only my grandchild but also the future. And for the first time in a long, long time, I feel hope blooming inside me again.